Hi, sweeties. If you're new here, hi, how are you? My name is Dana. It's nice to meet you. And if you're returning, welcome back. Either way, thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with me. So, you're probably thinking, Dana, what the heck is going on right now? What is on your head? Well, obviously, they're Mickey ears. And I'm also wearing my Mickey Mouse necklace. Because I thought that I would take some time today to rank every ride from Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. I'm also chewing some gum. I am chewing a piece of juicy fruit Starburst. I haven't had it before today. It's pretty tasty. Just like a good, candy strawberry flavor. You know, about what you'd expect from that. So, this is my little history with Disneyland. I've never actually been to Disney World. I'd love to go someday. Obviously, not right now. Even though Disney World is open, I'm not about to make the trek from California to Disney World. Especially not during these times. So, I grew up in Southern California, and we lived like an hour and a half away from Disneyland. And when I was younger, well, I kind of grew up going to the parks, but not I don't think we went every year, but we definitely went enough that I feel very fortunate and grateful that we got to go as often as we did. That kind of petered off later on in my life, and I would go after I saved the money to go. So in 2018, I had an almost full-time job, so I felt financially secure enough to become an annual pass holder. And at that time, it was April 2018, my brother also got an annual pass. So we would go together, and then I had friends who also had annual passes, so I would go with them. But I also, every once in a while, would go by myself. And honestly, it's a really cool experience to go by yourself, because you don't have to worry about what anybody else wants to do. You can take your time doing whatever you want. And that's a nice thing about having an annual pass too, is that if you miss something, you can always come back soon and do it the next time. So yeah, I really loved having an annual pass. And then late last year, October of 2019, I got an annual pass again. But Disneyland closed in March of 2020 because of the pandemic. I actually went with my partner, Paul, my fiance, actually. He proposed to me recently. It's pretty cool. Maybe I'll do a story time about our relationship. Anyway, getting off track. We actually went a few days before it closed down, which might have been a little stupid on our parts, but neither of us got sick, so I mean, we probably shouldn't have, but it was part of our plan, and it's what we that's like bright green, and I have a peach sticker on that one. So, sorry, now I gotta turn to my list again. So I'm gonna start with last place and then go on to first. So full disclosure, I have not been on Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, the Incredicoaster, the Pixar Pal-Around Ferris Wheel, the Astro Orbiter, Jesse's Critter Carousel, or any of those like small pure rides that are in California Adventure. I've been on one of them, but that's in the list. I haven't been on Guardians of the Galaxy, the Incredicoaster, or the Pixar Pal-Around because I am afraid of heights. And I don't especially like the feeling of falling. So I don't love like big roller coasters. And every time I would go, I would be like, maybe this is the time I face my fear and just go on Guardians of the Galaxy. But I never did. I don't know if I ever will. As for the Pixar Pal-Around, those swinging vehicles, never. I would never ever do that. That scares the heck out of me. Just looking at it like makes my stomach lurch. As for the stationary ones, like maybe one day, probably not. Astro Orbiter is just something I've never gotten around to going on. It's that rocket ride in Tomorrowland. I do like spinning, which you will find out as we go down the list, but I've just never done it. Jesse's Critter Carousel, again, I just didn't. It's a carousel. I never went on it. It opened fairly recently, so. And then the small pure rides have just never piqued my interest. So, aside from those, there are 38 rides. So, let's get started. At number 38, we have the Finding Nemo submarine voyage. Most of the rides on this list, almost all of them other than this one, I'm just like indifferent about. This ride I do not like, I despise, because one, it is not made for larger people. I am not a small person. I am fat, and I am 5'9", so I'm like a bigger person. The seats are not made for people who are more, I won't say more than a certain weight, on the bigger end of people. So that's one thing. The other thing is that it's too dang long, and you're just in such a cramped space for such a long time. I counted one time. I was in there, this was the last time I went on it. We were in there for 23 minutes. And granted, I think the ride from when we got on to when the ride ended was like 17 minutes. And then they kept us in the submarine. For some reason, we had to stay in there for an extra 6 minutes. It was a nightmare. I'm not normally super claustrophobic, but having to stay in there for longer than we had to, terrible. So that's that. Number 37 is Gadget's Go Coaster, which is just a small kiddie coaster in Toontown. I don't like hate it or anything. It's just been a long time since I've been on it, and it's for kids, so the seats are definitely not made for two adults. It's made for an adult and a child. So every time I go to Disneyland, I'm not interested, and like if my friends were, it would be hard for us to sit in one together. So it's fun, but it's, it's a kiddie coaster. Number 36 is King Arthur's Carousel in Fantasyland. I haven't been on this since I was little. I think the only reason it plays placed above Gadget's Go coaster is because I found out that there is a Mary Poppins horse on it, and I love Mary Poppins. I actually have a Mary Poppins tattoo. It says practically perfect in every way. I got it to celebrate the memory of my grandmother. But so I love Mary Poppins. So by extension, I love the Mary Poppins horse on the King Arthur carousel. So congratulations, King Arthur carousel. Number 35 is Goofy's Sky School in California Adventure. So this is, it's around the area with these small, like, boardwalk pier rides. It is a Wild Mouse coaster. Sorry, I think my cat was doing something stupid. So it's a Wild Mouse coaster. So you're in like this really compact vehicle, and it does a lot of like whipped turns and like fast downs and ups, but it's like this small compact roller coaster. It just feels a little unsafe. I don't think it actually is. I don't think Disney would put an unsafe roller coaster in their park. But yeah, it's just not my favorite. I've only been on it once, and I don't really think I need to go on it again. Number 34 is Autopia in Tomorrowland. Now, if you had asked me to make this list when I was 7, this would be much higher. I used to love Autopia, but now it's just kind of nostalgic for me. It's really smelly. They should really update the vehicles so they're like electric and not little gas guzzlers. They've updated it a little bit, and it's kind of cool. I went on it more recently, but it's just, you know, not all of these, but some, like these 5, 6 are for like kids, you know. I'm sure, like, obviously I loved it when I was little, so the excitement of driving a car kind of wears off once you're 23. Number 33 is the Silly Symphony Swings. So this is the only one of those little boardwalk rides that I've been on. I went by myself one day, and it must have been in maybe January. And I was just like, why not? Like, there was no wait, and I was just walking by, and I was like, I was a little afraid of how high it would go, like how high the swings lifted off of the ground. But I really liked it. Like I said, I like spinning, which sounds like such a baby thing. Like, yes, I love to spin. And it was just nice. Like, it feels like you're flying, and once you're up there, it doesn't feel too high. So, you know, it's just one of those classic, like, carnival swing rides. I had fun. Number 32. I might get some flack for this if any big Disney fans watch this, or Disneyland fans. Number 32 is Peter Pan's Flight. So, coming up pretty much from 32 to 17 is pretty much all of like the dark rides. I feel pretty much neutral about all of them, so ranking these was actually the hardest, because I was like, well, which ones do I like more than the other? But so, Peter Pan's Flight, it's very popular. The wait is always way too long for me. I never want to wait to go on that ride, because it's like, it goes by so fast. I was about to snap, and then I was like, nope, that would be bad ASMR. So it goes by way too fast. It always feels like it only lasts like a minute, and you waited like 40 minutes for it. I get the novelty of it, that the track is above you, so it's like you're flying in a pirate ship. That's pretty cool, but it's just not my favorite. I'm sorry. I never wait for Peter Pan's flight. That's like another way I ranked these, is like, do I want to go on it every time? And like, am I willing to wait for it? And this is just not something I am like, I have to go on this, you know? If the people I'm with want to go on it, I will. But if I'm by myself, I'm definitely not gonna go on Peter Pan's flight. Number 31, another popular one. Dumbo, the flying elephant. This is another one where the wait is just usually pretty long. And even though I like spinning, I don't like Dumbo. Because, I don't know, last time I went on it, it just like, I don't know, it like forced me into a weird place, and I just did not enjoy myself. So, yeah. Number 30 is It's a Small World. I think it's clear why this is ranked pretty low. It gets repetitive, and it's just long. Like, if I want to sit down and have a chill time and float down a river, sure. But again, it's not something I'm about to wait for. Yeah. It's just not one of my favorites. Number 29 is Snow White's Scary Adventures. I actually think some of the set pieces in this are pretty cool. Like when you're going through the like haunted forest and the trees are all spooky. That's actually pretty cool. And the part where the queen is like looking in the mirror, she turns around and she's the evil hag. It's pretty cool. But yeah, it's just a dark ride, you know. That's all I can really say about most of these. Number 28 is Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. I didn't forget about this on my initial list of every attraction. I just, as I was making my list, the rankings, I was like, oh shoot, I like forgot about it. And then I had to rearrange everything because I was like, well, I don't like it more than this. Oh geez, but then there's this. So this one gave me some grief. I used to really like it, like the first time I went on it when I was younger. I thought it was super cool because, you know, it's interactive. You get to shoot the aliens and the targets. I like the music on it. I think the music on it is pretty cool. But yeah, I'll go on it if it's like walk on. But if there is a wait, like at all, I'm not gonna go on Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. 27 is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in Critter Country. I think it's cute. I really like Winnie the Pooh, and so does my fiance. So we like to go on it together. And I think the set, again, like, it has really cool set pieces. And I like the part where it's windy and the vehicle like rocks around. It's pretty cool. I keep saying cool. That's pretty neat. But yeah, I like the part with the heffalumps. It's cute. It's a cute ride. Number 26 is Pinocchio's Daring Journey. This is another one where I think it's like the set pieces are really cool. I've never actually seen Pinocchio, but I feel like it tells the story in such a like cool, succinct way. I feel like you don't miss anything. So yeah, I've always liked Pinocchio's Daring Journey. I think it's a cool ride. A good ride. I'm gonna just try to stop saying cool. like the most updated version when they last refurbished it. I think they added some really neat elements with like projection mapping. And yeah, again, this is one that I've just kind of always enjoyed. So, yeah. Number 24 is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I always have a good time on this ride. Like, I go on it with friends mostly. I don't think I would go on it by myself. I probably have, but it's just fun. Like, it's just a fun, like, goofy ride to go on with such a dark ending because you get hit by a train and you go to hell. And I think that's what's most fun about going on it with friends, is that it just becomes like a joke that we're like, oh, I just got back from hell. And it's like silly because like when you're in the room that's hell, it's like hotter and stuff. So mostly for the goofs and the gags, I really like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Number 23 is The Little Mermaid, Ariel's Undersea Adventure, and this is back in California Adventure. I really like The Little Mermaid, and I think the ride is really good. It has cool animatronics. That Ursula animatronic is everything. I went with my mom one time as a Mother's Day gift to her, and we actually got stuck in Ursula's room for like, I don't know, 5 minutes, like 5 whole minutes. We just sat in there and listened to her repeat her part of Poor Unfortunate Souls. But I didn't mind it because I love looking at that animatronic. It's so cool. But yeah. And I like the Under the Sea room. I don't like how it ends. I don't like that they just have them kiss and then it's happily ever after, but you know, they only have so much room to make this ride, so. Number 22 is the Casey Jr. Circus Train in Fantasyland. So, this ride is for children, but my brother, one of my brothers, I have 2 brothers, one of my brothers loves it, so I feel like every time I go on it, it's like for him. But it's just this little train, and it goes around like a set of miniatures of like fantasy stuff. So like there's Agrabah from Aladdin, they added Arendelle from Frozen, stuff like that. But ranked just above it at number 21 is the Storybook Land canal boats. Now, I don't love the actual boats because they make me, there's no back to them. So it makes me nervous that I'm gonna like fall backwards into the river. But the reason it ranks above the train is because it's the same set of miniatures, but you have like a cast member tour guide talking to you about each story and about the miniatures, and I think that's really sweet, and it's just a good time. I had a really good tour guide one time. He was like the funniest guy. I don't remember his name, but it was just a really good experience. Number 20 is Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters at Cars Land in California Adventure. So, if you don't know, when Cars Land opened, this was actually Luigi's floating tires. And it was like a human air hockey table where you would sit in these big, like, wheel-looking things, and it would float slightly off of the ground with air, and you would tilt to get it to go which way you want it to go. And it was not a good ride because people had a hard time getting them to move at all. So they closed that down and they opened Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters, which is a pretty cool ride, a pretty cute, fun ride. I need more adjectives. But it's trackless. I think trackless rides are like the coolest thing. Cool again. trackless ride. The vehicles are programmed so they know where to go, so they don't need to go on a track. So you get in a car, one of the, like a small car's car, and they just do a dance, like a synchronized dance. It's really fun. Yeah, like I think it was a big improvement, a major improvement on the flying cars, floating tires. Sorry, flying cars. But yeah, it's not my favorite ride in Cars Land. There are only 3, and we'll get to the others later on. But yeah, simple, fun. It's a good time. Number 19 is the Mad Tea Party. So, Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters does this too. We're back at it, baby. I love spinning. And I think the teacups are fun. They're not for everybody, but I just think it's fun. I don't go on them every time, but every time I do go on them, I just have a great old time. Number 18 is the Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind in California Adventure. So this is like nestled in a curve of the Incredicoaster, and it's actually a repurposed ride from Bugs Land, which closed in California Adventure to be replaced by Avengers Campus, which is fine, I guess. But so it used to be called Flix Flyers, and it's just it's like a big box that you sit in, and then it just lifts up and spins around for like 30 seconds maybe, but it spins just fast enough to get like a really nice cool breeze going, but not so fast that it's not like a relaxing experience. I think it's really relaxing, and I think what I like about it so much is how it looks. It looks like you're in like the brain headquarters with all of the memories around. And then in line there are like posters about Riley's brain, and they're all in really cool styles. And at night it's my favorite because all of the memories are like lit up, and it's so pretty at night. I love it at night. Look it up. Google Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind at night, and maybe you'll see what I'm talking about. I think it's also cool that the music changes. The ride is the same every time. There's not much you can change about that, but different emotions will narrate the ride, so the music will be different, and I think that's really nice. Number 17 is Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. It's in the title, spinning. This is another one where the set pieces are really cool. The line is actually one of my favorites because you like walk through alleyways in like a city, and you see like snippets of scenes going on. So that's really fun. And then the ride itself, it's like the teacups where you spin your vehicle, but you're being driven around, and what's it called? The goop in the movie, the ick, the slime. I don't remember, I'm sorry. But it's pretty much just like exaggerated, like, you know, it's a cartoon, it's Roger Rabbit. So, but the movie is like, you know, it's like a mystery detective thing, but this is like just the exaggerated cartoon stuff. So yeah, it's really bright and colorful and in your face, and I think it's really fun. Number 16 is Grizzly River Run in California Adventure in I forget what the area is called. That's okay. I haven't been consistent with saying the names of the areas anyway. The Grizzly River Run is a rapids ride where you're in one of those big round boats. And I don't love getting wet, but it doesn't bother me too much, especially on a hot day. And if you want to feel refreshed on a hot day at California Adventure, hop on Grizzly River Run because you will get wet. And I still don't know if it's a myth or not, but I have heard that on, sorry, if you didn't like that, I'm sorry, that was a weird sound. I've heard that on colder days, they like lower the water level so you don't get as wet. But that's really fun. One of my favorite experiences I had on Grizzly River Run, there are 8 seats in the raft, and I was doing the single rider line, and there was this group of 7 people, and they were all wearing matching shirts, and they were all adults, like they must have been having like a friend reunion or something. And I was just like, gosh, I hope I get to go on with them. And I did, and it was so fun because I was like telling them fun facts about the park that they didn't know, and like, I don't know, it was just really fun to go on it with them because they had a great time together and they were like including me in their fun. So Disney magic, am I right? Number 15 is the Matterhorn bobsleds. So here we are at the mountains of Disneyland. The Matterhorn is my least favorite. I think the Yeti is neat, the Yeti animatronic, and I actually really like the way they updated it for the 60th anniversary. My favorite part is when you're going up that first lift hill to get to the top. They added like screens behind ice to make it look like the Yeti is like chasing you up the mountain. I think that's really cool. But yeah, it's just kind of aggressive. Fun but aggressive, and it's not one that I'll wait for. If I get a fast pass for it, I might go on it. But it's not my favorite mountain. Actually, I went back in February with some friends and my brother, and we decided to go on it like on a whim, because we had a fast pass for another ride that was closed because it was raining, and so we were like, let's use it for the Matterhorn. So we went on the Matterhorn, and at the end there's like a little pond of water, but you don't get wet. You don't usually get wet on the Matterhorn. It splashes up, but you don't get wet. But because it was raining on this day, we got soaked. I just kept laughing because I was in shock. It was funny that it happened, but it also kind of sucked because we had like just gotten dry from walking around in the rain all day. But yeah, that's how I feel about the Matterhorn. Number 14 is Pirates of the Caribbean. This is a classic Disney ride. It's another one of those like a sit and relax kind of rides. Even though it's not one of my favorites, I like will go on this every time I go. The smell, everybody talks about the smell. It makes me feel really nostalgic and like happy. So I'm a fan of the smell as well. I have gone to the Blue Bayou one time in 2019, April of 2019. I went with Tate. Was it April? Whatever. And it was like the last time I was going with that annual pass. So we decided to go to the Blue Bayou to like celebrate that, the end of my annual pass ship. And you definitely pay for ambiance. The food was good. But it's definitely more expensive because it is in Pirates of the Caribbean. It was a cool experience, and I would go again, like for another special occasion, but it's definitely not like the greatest food. Like, it was fine, you know. But anyway, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a classic. It's fun. The smell is nice. Number 13 is Splash Mountain. I do enjoy Splash Mountain, but every time I'm in line for it, I get so nervous, so scared for that drop. Once I'm on it, I'm excited, and then once the drop is over, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not as bad as I remember. But for some reason, every time I get in line for it, I just get so anxious. So, because of that, it's not my favorite, but it is a fun ride, and I'm actually really excited for the Princess and the Frog update. I think that's a really smart decision. I think it'll be cool. I'm really looking forward to that. Number 12 is Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. Another thing that I like in a ride is getting thrown around, and this definitely has that. And speaking of sets, this ride has like the most amazing sets you'll ever see. I think it all went into like that big room you go into with the fire and the snake room and all of that stuff, and the bridge. But overall, I have a great time on it. I actually close my eyes at the part with the boulder because it scares me. Like with the flashing lights making it look like the boulder is about to come down on your vehicle. I'm such a baby. It scares me every time. There was one time I went with my friend and we actually got stuck on it for a long time, like 10 or 15 minutes. They didn't have us get off, but that's where we got stuck. We got stuck right before you drop down at the boulder part, and they actually turned on the lights so we could see like the giant inflatable boulder like just rolling continuously on its track. But yeah, that was a pretty funky experience. Also fun fact about that, when you're in that room and Indiana Jones tells you to go back, your vehicle doesn't actually move back, the hallway does, but like the illusion of it makes you feel like you're going backwards. Ooh, cool. Number 11 is the Jungle Cruise. I think the Jungle Cruise is so fun, and like, honestly, if I could work at Disneyland, the dream Disneyland job is to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. Who doesn't want to be a Jungle Cruise skipper, you know? And one of the best ones I had was like at night. I think going on the Jungle Cruise at night is like a completely different experience because the skippers feel like a little more loose and they make different jokes. And I don't know, if you have a good skipper, it's so fun. Even if you know the jokes and you like play with them, it's great. Like there was one time I went and there's a gag with a big elephant and he says this is the skipper will say this is like the second most fearsome animal. You know what number one is? And there was one time I finished the joke and I said his mother-in-law, like under my breath, but I was so close to the skipper that he heard me. And he was like, yes, his mother-in-law. And as we turned the corner, he looked down at me and he was like, ha, you know my jokes. And I was like, yes, I do. Another time I just want to talk about, there's a part where, like, natives, the Jungle Cruise was made a long time ago. There are lots of things about Disneyland, lots of things. There are a few racist things at Disneyland still in the year 2020. But they like they're animatronics that come up to like throw spears at you. And there was one time the skipper stayed long enough and he just yelled at them and he was like, hey, you stop it, come on now, you stop that. And he waited until like the animatronics went back down, like reset, and he was like, yeah, you cower in fear. And I thought that was hilarious. So here we are in the top 10. Can you believe it? Number 10 is Soarin' Around the World at California Adventure. I think I only went on Soarin' over California once, maybe twice. So I don't have the like nostalgic fond memories that other people do. I really like Soarin' Around the World. And like I went on Soarin' over California recently because I think they were doing it for the Food and Wine Festival. So I was underwhelmed because the clips are really old, the footage is grainy. So I really prefer Soarin' Around the World. The smells are great. I love the one when you go over the Taj Mahal. I think it's supposed to be like roses or orchids or something. But yeah, I really love Soarin' Around the World, and the end always makes me emotional when you get back to Disneyland and you see the fireworks. I love that. Number 9 is the Haunted Mansion. Who doesn't enjoy the Haunted Mansion? I'm sure there's somebody, but it's not me. I really like the Haunted Mansion. I also really like the holiday overlay with the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff. I think like hardcore Haunted Mansion fans don't like it, but I love it. Every year when I would go, like in recent years, and the overlay was up, at the bottom, when you're going into the garden part, and Jack Skellington is there, I always take a video of him and put, nice work, Bone Daddy, because that's what the band guy says to him in the movie. But I love the Haunted Mansion on its own, too. I love that stretching elevator, and the ghost host, and it's home to 999 happy haunts. Who wouldn't like that? There's always room for one more. Bum bum bum. I am one of those people that can quote the whole thing in the elevator, and I'm sorry, stretching room. And I hate myself for doing it sometimes, but you know, this room has no windows and no doors. I love it. It's fun. Number 8, a newer ride, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So, my favorite part of this ride is just that you get to go into the Millennium Falcon while you wait. If you don't know about this ride, essentially the story is Hondo Ohnaka. He is sending you to, what are you getting? Coaxium. You're chasing down a train to steal some coaxium. And before you go into the Millennium Falcon, there is a really cool Hondo Ohnaka animatronic. I'm really impressed by Disney's tech. I think they do some really amazing things, and this is one of them. I think on the Imagineering story, they say that this is the second most advanced animatronic behind the Navi River Shaman in Disney World. But yeah, this guy's really cool. So he tells you what you're doing, and then you go down a hallway, and you are assigned a position. There's a pilot, gunner, and engineer. I like being an engineer best. And that's your position on the ride. So this is an interactive experience. And after you are given your position, you're no longer like waiting in a line. They just send you in to like the Millennium Falcon, and you just like hang out in there until they call, about Star Wars is Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. But once your color is called, then you go into your very own cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. There are only 6 seats, and the pilots actually pilot the ride, which can be a blessing and a curse, because your experience on the ride is conditional upon the people you're with. So like as a single rider, I haven't had a great experience because people don't really understand like the premise, which is fine if you just think it's a ride and you're just going on it to have fun. Cool. But Hondo Ohnaka prompts the pilots to do things. He prompts the gunners to do things, and some people kind of miss that, which again is fine. But yeah, I think it's really fun to go on with a group of people that you know. And I like being the engineer because it's like the most low pressure. You just have to press buttons as they light up. And I love pressing buttons, so. Number 7 is Star Tours. I was like, these two were like switching places in my mind, but I decided Star Tours ranked above Smuggler's Run because contingent, that's the word I was thinking of. The experience is not contingent on the people you're with. Star Tours is just a fun motion simulator. And I like that you can get different combinations and of like places that you go. I actually never went on it before it was updated to like do that like randomized trip thing. But I really like Star Tours. I sent my list to my brothers, and one of them was like, I didn't know Star Wars was a top 10 ride for you. And then I was just like, I guess I didn't either. But this is one of those rides I go on pretty much every time. I don't think I ever get fast passes for it, but I will go on it if the wait is 45 minutes or lower, and it typically is. So I guess that's one that I think is worth waiting for. Number 6 is Mater's Junkyard Jamboree in Cars Land. So this has got both. It's got spinning and it's got throwing you around, and I think it's a hoot and a half. So it's tractors on turntables. The front part of the tractor is like bolted down to the turntable, and then there's like a thick cable attaching the part where you sit. And when the turntable starts spinning, you just get tossed around, and I love it. And one of my favorite things to do is watch people on the ride while I'm waiting in line, because I think people don't expect to have as much fun as they do. So like, I'll see adults like get on the ride and they'll just be like this once it starts, but then as it gets going, they're like and like the smile on their faces, it gets me every time. I love it. So it may seem silly, but I love Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. Number 5 is Toy Story Midway Mania. The technology on this ride is another one that's like really cool. It's just a better version of Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, because you're put in the ride vehicle, and then you have it's 4D, so there's screens and you play the games on the screens. The wait is always super long. I typically don't wait for it. I'll hope to get a fast pass for it, but fast passes for it go so quickly because it is such a popular ride. Like I went with my dad. Again, as a birthday gift. I went with my mom for Mother's Day. I went with my dad for his birthday. And I asked him, like, what do you want to do? Like, what is one thing you definitely want to do before we leave? And he said, oh, I want to go on that Toy Story ride. And I was like, really? Like, I didn't know you liked that ride. But he's like, yeah, I love it. So it's just like a universally loved ride, and I love it too. Number 4 is Space Mountain. I think every rendition edition of Space Mountain is great. Original, awesome. Hyperspace Mountain with the Star Wars stuff, really cool. Ghost Galaxy, don't even talk to me. I love Ghost Galaxy. Last time I went for Halloween, though, they kept the Hyperspace Mountain overlay, and I was like, what the heck? I want to go on Ghost Galaxy. So, Ghost Galaxy I love because it has just like a scary ghost chasing you throughout the ride. I think that's so cool. And then Hyperspace Mountain, the animations are cool, but what I like about it is the music. Like when you turn to go onto that first lift hill and the Star Wars theme just starts blaring in your ears. It's so hype. It's so cool. I went on it with my brother and I screamed too much for him and he was kind of mad about it. But then we rolled up to the station after it was over and they were like, do you guys want to go on it again? Because I guess they were like transferring one of the vehicles and we were just like, yeah. So I was quieter that time. Number 3 is Radiator Springs Racers in Cars Land. I love this ride. I always do the single rider because it just moves faster. Like you pretty much walk onto it when you do single rider. But so this is kind of a dark ride, a thrill ride hybrid. It starts off where you just drive through Monument Valley, I think is what it's called. And then you go into Radiator Springs. And you either go get your tires changed or you go get your paint changed. And then you meet with another car and you race. And that's like the thrill element. And I love it. It's so fun. And there's a part you drive down and the sheriff stops you. And then he calls Mater. And I have conditioned myself that every time Mater comes out of the bushes, I wave at him. I cannot help it. Every time he says, howdy, I just wave at him. I am a child. I am a baby. But yeah, it's just a really cool ride. Number 2, here we are, is Rise of the Resistance in Galaxy's Edge. So, this is not a ride. It is an experience. It is a 20-minute experience. And I cannot believe I was lucky enough to go on it 3 times before Disneyland closed. So, it opened January 17th in Disneyland. I went on January 23rd. I went again with some friends in February, and then I went again with my fiance Paul in March. And I got to go on it every time. And let me tell you why this ride is not first place. It's because of the dang virtual queue. So in order to get on this ride, you have to have the Disneyland app on your phone. And you have to like stand there updating your Disneyland app right before opening, because as soon as 8 o'clock hits, the virtual queue opens. And it is a hellish experience because you're sitting there refreshing your app, waiting for it to say that you got a boarding group, and around you, you just hear people cheering. Like, I'm literally about to, like, I feel anxious just thinking about it, because you're like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not getting a boarding group? So, it sucks every time. That part of it sucks so hard. I cannot wait until it just has a standby line. Every time I went, I got to go on it. The first time I went by myself. I think I was group 92. And while I was in line, it broke down. But I waited. I waited for an hour and then it opened again and I got to go on it. When I went in February with some friends, it closed for 4 hours. So so we were really scared we wouldn't get to go on it. I convinced them to wait. But once it opened again, because it was also raining that day, I think when it closed, a lot of people left. So they were going through boarding groups so quickly. Like, it opened at like 5:30 and they got to us at like 7:30, and they went through, we were group 89. I think they went from like 58 to 89 in 2 hours, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, we got to go on it then. And then I went with Paul, and that day was smooth sailing for the ride. It didn't close down, and we were on it at like 5. But that's another thing, you have to wake up super early to get to Disneyland before it opens, to make sure you get into that virtual queue. But it is so amazing. It's trackless. Like I said, it's an experience. If you want to look it up, you definitely should, and watch a ride through. If you want to keep it secret. If you don't want it spoiled before you get a chance to go on it sometime in your life, don't. I almost wish I hadn't watched it before I went. But I'm so impatient, I can't wait. And going on it is such a different experience than watching it. But yeah, I won't talk about the experience too much if you don't want it spoiled, but just know it is like the most amazing ride, like, to ever be conceived, I think, at a Disney park. It's amazing. And number 1, drum roll, is Big Thunder Mountain. I love Big Thunder Mountain. I think it's so fun. I saw a TikTok recently that said this is what it means about you if this is your favorite ride at the Magic Kingdom. And they said about Big Thunder Mountain, you're either a big brother that got dragged there for your sister to see princesses, or you just like getting your shit rocked in the back row. And that's me. I love getting my shit rocked in the back row, because when you're in the back row of the ride, you have all of the momentum from the rest of the train going ahead of you, and it's so much, like, it feels so much faster, and it rocks your shit. I love Big Thunder Mountain. I will go on it every time. If it's closed, I am so sad. Luckily the wait is never super long, so I'll go on it every time. I love Big Thunder Mountain, especially at night. I like going on it once during the day and once at night. What else can I say about it? I just love it. And you get a really nice view of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge now, as you're going up the second lift hill. But yeah, I remember the first time I went on it when I was little. My dad, when it started, he was like, this is as fast as it goes. But he lied to me. So for a long time, I did not enjoy Big Thunder Mountain. It took me a long time to give the roller coasters at Disneyland a chance because I was so scared. But now they're some of my favorites, and Big Thunder Mountain is my favorite ride at Disneyland and California Adventure. So that's the end of my list. I hope you had a good time. I hope you feel like you visited Disneyland and California Adventure through me. If you want more videos about Disney in the future, let me know. I'd love to do videos about the food there. What a day at Disneyland looks like for me. Yeah, I love talking about Disneyland, so let me know.